Hello and welcome. Good morning. It's a new day, it's a new week, and we thank God for His grace that has been sufficient. Thank you so much for the feedback that you've given me on the chronicles, the personal chronicles. I've received so many testimonies of how many of you can relate with the personal chronicles that I shared last week. And this is a new week, and this week I want us to focus on answering one question. And this is the question: what is in a name? Because everybody has a name. You didn't call yourself that name. You were given that name by either your parents or you were given that name by guardians. But even today, the name that you were given, if you would start calling yourself, would think that something is very wrong. Like if I would just start saying Lucy and then I say, Lucy, it means that something is very, very wrong. And so today I want us to answer this question: what is in a name? And why is the name so important? You know, Shakespeare wrote in the Romeo and Juliet play, he wrote this question. He asked, what is in a name? If what we call roses was called by another name, it would still be smelling sweet. So, in other words, Shakespeare is trying to explain that what gives value to the name is not the outward, but it's in the character, it's in what you do. Roses, they smell sweet, but he said that even though they were called another name, they would not change their identity. They wouldn't change their characteristics because they smell sweet. And the Bible says in the book of Ecclesiastes 7 verse 1, a good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of birth. Let's pause there and ask ourselves, why is the name and the day of death written in the same verse? Because this is what happens. The time you die, people will stand and they'll say, they will not talk just about your name, they will not just talk about your gender, but they will say, so and so was a good man, was a good person. So and so was a man or a woman of integrity. And you know, sometimes when we are talking and sharing about how people were when they have departed, because of the fear of the dead, we sometimes feel the need not to share the truth as we know it about some people. I remember a few years ago, I was a pastor in a village, and one time I was officiating this funeral of a guy who had crossed a line with the law, and he was shot down. And during the funeral, a certain man was given an opportunity to talk about the deceased, and he said, "I'm not gonna stand here and lie and even say why this guy died and he was good. No. I'm gonna talk the truth and say he wasn't a good person. He was a thief." And he talked and he talked and he talked, and people were just staring at him and looking at him. Others were smiling, others were like, you know why? Because whatever he was saying, even if it's out of the culture, out of the norm, whatever he was saying is what many people were thinking or would have said. And so when we talk about the name, we are talking beyond the written letters that make up your name. And that is why the Bible says that a good name is better than ointment. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, and favor is better than silver and gold. That is Proverbs 22 verse 1. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches. So here is the name, a good character, integrity, and all that makes up a good person. And here are riches. it is always our choice to choose which way do we want to go. Do we want to maintain a good name, or do we want to, there's I've remembered that in high school, because when you're in high school, it's like you never get full. You're like, you need to eat and eat and eat, and so sometimes there will be extra servings of the food, and people would just say, oh no, you know what, I don't care what the other girls will say, I better spoil the name and just build the body. And they'll grab the remaining helpings and say, oh, I don't care about the name. So sometimes in life we forget the importance of a good name. And so this week I'm going to talk, and we are going to discuss this. What is in the name? That name that you are given, that name that we call you, what is in the name? And we have said the first thing that we need to know is that not only a name, but a good name is far much more worth than riches, than gold, than silver, than ointment, expensive ointment. And it says that the day of death is better than the day you were born, because the day you were born, you were given the name. But the day you die, we talk about you as a person and say what kind of a person you were and what kind of a name you had. Let's continue here as we answer this question. What is in a name? God bless you. This is Pastor Lucy Painter with your daily insights.